Hey guys, Kenny back with another video. What to do if you keep falling off on your goals. So unfortunately I did film this video before, not that you guys would even know this if I didn't tell you, but I messed up not plugging in the audio cable, so there was no audio, so that was pretty sad. So this is a refilm, so hopefully if anything I'm producing better explanations of it because I've already done an explanation of it. Anyways, this video is for some low dopamine education, so enjoy, folks. This is to improve your lives, but it's also to improve mine. I fall short of my word, and honestly, I'm making this video to hold myself accountable. So here's what I planned out for myself, and together we will learn and look back on this video, and we'll be glad that we actually changed. Because we're talking about not falling off on your goals. Granted that you're setting high goals, you're likely going to improve your life quite a bit. So sticking to our high level goals will allow ourselves to have a much better life. And who doesn't want a much better life? So basically, let's get into it. So if you have a goal and you want to achieve it, but you find that you fall off somewhere along the road, you feel the guilt, the shame, and then you muster up the motivation to get back on the plan. You go back on your strict plan. Then eventually as the days get tough again and you have those days where you don't feel like it and it gets really hard, you fall off again. Does that sound familiar? Well, it does to me. So why does this happen and how can we fix it? And the sad truth is when you feel like quitting and you feel the temptation to do something that you shouldn't do, the funny thing about it is when you break it down and you actually think about it, you know that it comes down to you should just ignore this and do what you got to do. But then when you get back on track, you feel that temptation to fall off. But then you know if you break it back down, that it's always going to come down to this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do, and you should pretty much just like set it and forget it. So it's amazing how sometimes if we just make the simple choice to do what we have to do, avoid what we have to avoid, and just don't think about anything else, that will just reap all the rewards that we need to reap and basically live the life that we want to live and we're supposed to live. So ultimately, you gotta make up your mind to set it and forget it, honestly, and do what you got to do. Because you know you're going to regret it if you don't, and you know if you start breaking it down, like I said before, you're going to end up at the same place, knowing that you should do this and you should be avoiding the thing that you're tempted to do, let's say. So a couple of reasons why you could fail. Like the first one is you don't know how, but honestly, this is probably not the issue. But let's assume you kind of get over this one, right? Because you do your research, but you also realize that you're going to learn as you do because you don't even know everything. You can't possibly know what you don't know. You don't even know what problems there are and therefore what solutions that you need to come up with to solve those problems. So you just need to start and try to improve. And you're going to find problems and therefore you're going to try to find solutions to those problems. But like I said before, you don't even know what problem exists until you start investigating, and then you realize, oh shoot, this is a problem that I need to solve. And then you solve it, and then you encounter another problem as you progress, and then you try to solve that one. And then, you can't predict these problems, so to speak. Some of them you can, but all of them you can't. So you just got to get started. So do your research and get started because you can't possibly know everything before you start. All right, so eliminating you don't know how. Number two is you don't have a clear why, and this probably has to be the biggest reason why people fall off on their goals. So why do you even want this goal? What are you willing to sacrifice and why? Because as much as it's about discipline, like you kind of look at the tier in terms of like what's actually important, and like at the bottom, motivation. Because motivation is not always there. So motivation is such a small component of achieving your goals. Then above that is discipline. And then above that is sacrifice. And pretty much sacrifice is discipline for a long period of time. And discipline is not just doing what you should do, but it's also avoiding what you should avoid. And again, consistently, and that means for a long period of time. So ultimately, you need to start making sacrifices. So what you can do is you can reframe this into what you're choosing. And what you're choosing as opposed to giving up something, and then also within what you're choosing in terms of like a more exaggerated version of what you're choosing. So instead of thinking I'm choosing to eat healthy, you can say that you're choosing to be the best version of yourself, to live longer, to see your kids grow up. You could also look at it, like I said before, the first one that I kind of mentioned, where it's you're looking at what you're avoiding. So you could say, you know, I'm choosing to eat healthy instead of choosing to be unhealthy, look mediocre, be overweight, and then you could, you know, make it even worse on the negative side, more drastic on the negative side, and say I'm choosing to reject diabetes, heart disease, etc., etc. So look at it as what you're choosing, as opposed to a negative choice. So the positive version of the negative version, and then you can exaggerate that you're avoiding the drastic negative version, and then you can do the same thing for the positive version. You know, because ultimately, if you do eat healthy, you're going to end up being fit. You're going to look the most attractive that you can look. Opportunities in life will open up that were never there before. Experiences in life will open up that were never there before. And you're going to live pretty much the best possible life that you can live. So you can literally exaggerate and be like, if I eat this healthy meal, I'm choosing to be my absolute best. Because if you continue to do it and you're consistent, then guess what? You actually will get that end result. So yeah, I basically mentioned what I just talked about there. So if you don't stick to your diet and exercise plan, I'm saying that I'm okay not being healthy and I could die younger and not be there for my family. The truth is, guys, motivation is not always there. Discipline is always there though. And discipline is doing what you said you would do. It's sticking to your word. If you can't win in private and keep your promises to yourself, then you won't win in public and won't win others over. If you can't win the little things, you can't win the big things. If you can't win the victories that you said you would do something because you know you want to do it and avoid something that you know you want to avoid, then how can you expect to teach other people to do something that you can't even do and to avoid something that you can't even avoid? When you're avoiding these things, the way that you feel when you're avoiding these things is the way that it feels to do that. So basically you want to keep it, like I said, simple and just do the actions, avoid the things that you need to avoid, and just embrace what it feels like, because that is what life is like, doing the right thing, basically. So you want to do the actions that are necessary and find a way to win no matter what, and be the person that does what they say they'll do, because the pain of regret is much worse than the pain of hard work. So you're going to look back and be so glad that you didn't give up. You can learn to use the pain and difficulty to drive you. When it's all said and done, nothing matters other than if you did it or not, and if you have results. No one remembers how you felt a month ago when you gave up, and you won't either. Actions based on consequences. You will not get time back. You won't get to go backwards and try again. Take your life seriously. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to impose on you how important your time and your life is. So you have to do it for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have some big regrets when you're older, and I'm trying to stop you guys from having those, and I'm trying to stop myself from having those. Because lo and behold, I'm not perfect. I don't do everything that I'm supposed to do. I don't avoid everything that I'm supposed to avoid. But better believe, I'm definitely trying. And, you know, we're, 3/4 of the way through January? Guys, you can still make 2025 your year. You can still make it the best year possible for your life. You can still change your life and turn it into the best, most, improved life, best year of your entire life. Improve your life drastically through 2025. If you fell off on your goals, we're 3/4 of the way through January. Get back on them and never fall off on them ever again. Give your best, show up as much as you can each day. Get back on those goals and just be consistent. Don't push them off till next year. We just started January, or we're just about to finish January. And that same mindset that you had when you started, that you wanted to push hard at the beginning of the year, don't let that fade away. Do the boring work, do the work that you're supposed to do, the difficult work, the boring work, because that's what's going to get you the results. And you just need to keep pushing, guys, because lo and behold, it's already been 22 days. I'm filming this on January 22nd. So, imagine if you were consistent with that thing that you said you'd be consistent with. You'd be 22 days in, because at the beginning you kind of looked at it and you're like, oh man, to start on January 1st, what's the point? It's going to take so long to progress. A year is going to be, it's going to be such a slow year. But lo and behold, we're already 22 days in, and then eventually we're going to be into February. Then all of a sudden it's spring, and then summer, and then all of a sudden it's going to be 6 months pass, and you're going to wonder where the time went. And by then, hopefully you haven't forgotten about your goals that you set originally, because you could have made 6 months of progress. So take that really seriously. Last thing, why you probably fall off on your goals. So remember, the first one is you don't know how, but let's imagine that we can eliminate that one pretty quick. The second one, probably the most important, is figure out why you're trying to do this. Have a clear why, have a clear purpose. That way you know that you believe you're the type of person that can do this, and your actions therefore are a result of the type of person that you are. And how you feel is going to be different from how you feel right now, because if you change the way that you live, you're a new person, so it's going to feel different. And the way that you feel when you're doing the actions is the way that it feels to do those actions. So have your clear why. And number 3 is you tell yourself that you don't have enough time. In reality, you actually do, but you just need to prioritize and you need to eliminate distractions. So with this, you need to understand that some effort also is better than no effort. Like I said before, eliminating distractions is massive, because this way you have nothing to do but the action that is required of you. You don't need to throw in the towel just because you messed up a bit. Your small wins make a difference. That's going back to what I said before, sorry, where it's you need to understand that some effort is better than no effort. You should know that a smaller win makes a win. It's a smaller win, so it's just going to take more of them to get a big result. But smaller wins still move the needle. Do you prefer to not move the needle or move it a little? What makes the bigger difference 1 year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now? What if you could only make smaller wins 3 days out of the 7 for the week, which a lot of times is what we can do? Would you rather not move the needle 3 days per week for a year than not move it at all? Because 0 added to 0 as many times as you want is still 0, but small progress because you showed up on the days that you couldn't give 100% effort and you just did your best that you could for that day and you didn't follow your perfect plan. You can add all those days up at the end of the year, and it's going to make a massive result and put you in a place that you otherwise wouldn't be in your life and give you results that you otherwise wouldn't have. So sticking to your word requires you to realize that you don't have as much time as you think you do. If you fail now, you can't redo, and eventually you will hopefully win, but then you'll realize you could have won when you were younger. And guys, that's a painful statement for me to say because it also holds me accountable. Basically, it means that you shouldn't give up no matter how tough it gets, because you're going to regret if you overcome this thing later that you could have overcame it sooner. And then you're going to wonder, where could my life have been if I had overcome this sooner and jumped to level 2 sooner? You're on level 10 now, maybe you would have been on level 20. And the fact is, small wins and winning over time compounds. So you're not just going to jump to level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. As you get deeper into the levels, a few days work can get you from level 20 to level 30. And then you know that your life at looking at video games, better you get, the easier it is because of the results that you have to continue to push, because you see so much positive results in your life and you have so much more resources to make further growth easier. Even though it's harder to continue to grow, it's almost easier because now you have a different mindset and more resources. So the same thing kind of goes for your habits, but your habits compound in such a way that you could have a 100-day plan, and day 90 to 91 could produce more results than 0 to 90, but 90 to 91 could only happen from the work that you put in from 0 to 90, and then 91 to 92 could produce more results than 90 to 91. And now that you've worked so hard and it's so hard and it's so challenging, you pretty much are getting the best results. So even though it's harder, still harder than day 0, day 50, day 20, whatever, you're going to want to keep going because the amount of results that you're getting now because of the compounding effect is addicting. It's addicting to continue to put in the hard work because you're getting amazing results. But to get there, you can't quit. So all that hard work, if you quit on day 85, you would have never experienced the compounding effects from day 90 to 91. So that's why you got to set it, just forget it, and just put the work in. All right, so you need to reframe your mind and link it with your purpose. Why are you truly doing this? Your reason why has to be super important to you, otherwise you won't stick with it. You need to set realistic goals. The version you want to become is likely super high standard, but it takes time. But if you just do the right actions then what's separating you from what you want is literally just time. And that's hope, guys. That means that literally you can choose to live the way that you want. You can choose to become the person that you want to be. And that's powerful. I hope it's powerful for you guys. And it's really powerful for me because, you know, it holds me accountable. And hopefully I'm going to grow into the person that I want to be. And you guys can see my growth, and it can motivate you and encourage you and get you to be disciplined on your own program to get to where you guys want to be as well. Because you can get there. You just need to figure out what you need to do and then just be consistent with it. So, like I said before, just in my notes here, be encouraged that all that's separating you is time, as long as you're doing the right actions. When you do these actions, eventually you win, and it all seems to add up overnight when you break through the threshold. So that's the idea of the compounding effect. What it feels like when you're doing it is what it feels like. So let's say, man, I wish I had a six-pack. Well, if you get the plan and do it, then eventually you would. Then how you feel is how your ideal version of yourself would feel. So now that you feel it, it's like, dang, this is how it feels to be this person. Some people would say that it's not all it's cracked up to be. They might have success and they might look at you and be like, you don't want this as much as you think you want it because it's not all it seems to be. I'm sure you guys have heard that before from people. That's kind of along the lines that it may look good from the outside, but when you realize what is required and what it feels like, you may not have the same goals, or you need to realize that this is what is required. So you either choose to align your actions to what you say you want. So you might say that you want something, but you don't choose based off of your words, you choose based off of your actions. So if you say you want something and you do what is required in terms of the actions that are required, then you will get your result. So you have to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do whatever is required. I'm gonna feel whatever it feels like to do it because I want this result. So that way that you were supposed to feel is just what it feels like to get that result. So you're not used to it because being a new person feels different. Getting the result requires a life that feels different. So if you just commit and do the actions, you're just gonna feel it, and you just embrace the feeling of what it feels like to be getting the results. I hope that makes sense. It kind of is just like an epiphany that I kind of have had recently in terms of, you know, you're so used to being the way that you're being and the way that you feel that produces the life around you. So if you want a different life, you have to do different actions, and it's going to feel different. And that makes sense because a person with a different life and a different personality, it would feel different, and you're just not used to what it feels like. And especially if it's something hard to achieve, there's going to be a difficult feeling. And then the feeling that you want to avoid, that's the difficult feeling, and that's what difficulty feels like. And, you know, quitting and running away from that feeling is literally the analogy of quitting when it gets difficult, because that feeling that you're trying to avoid is what difficulty is. Whether it's discomfort, it's frustration, whatever it is, that's just difficulty, and you're trying to run away from it. So you're basically quitting. So when people talk about, oh, I'll do whatever is required and I'll not quit when it gets difficult, when you start to feel those weird feelings, that's the difficulty. And if you quit, then you just quit when it got difficult. So stick to your word is what I'm trying to say. So I'm almost done here, guys. So like I said, either you realize what is required and not have the same goals, or maybe you do what's required and you're willing to just not quit. Will you do what it takes, and will you find a way to win? That's what you got to ask yourself. Is your goal more important, or is your excuse? That's it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Another Kenny's Raw Talks. See you guys in the next one. Peace.